All right, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about Trump again. A few more little things in the...
Now Bo is talking about Trump.
Yeah, only now. The first time I've ever talked about Trump. No, I thought I'd talk about a bit because even though we covered it earlier in the week, I believe, or last week, some of his legal problems, I thought I'd talk about it in a sort of bit of a broader sense. So we saw, I think in the last day or two, he did actually post his bond of $175 million. What an absurd number that is.
It's a lot.
Originally, he was ordered to pay $464 million. The best part of $500 million. For what again? What was it?
It sounds like Dr. Evil.
Yeah. So. $500 million for inflating the price of his own properties with sort of estate agent people.
Trying to make money.
Which I think Josh did a bit, or maybe it was Dan. Somebody on Lotus recently did a bit about it, how that everyone does it.
Yeah.
Like sort of everyone does it. It's sort of de rigueur. It's par for the course. Even like Jon Stewart has done it and stuff. Everyone does it. It's the way the world goes round almost. Even if it is it is a little bit dodgy, you're not being perfectly honest, but nonetheless. So, but they put him up on charges, and the Attorney General in New York, Letitia James, who's obviously a partisan, political partisan. Now, it doesn't sound like much, really, does it, having an Attorney General that's a political partisan? Haven't a lot of them been partisan over the years? I mean, yes, of course, but the point I was wanted to make is that it's getting bad now. It's getting to the point where, and I'm not the first one to notice this or say this, where it's actually it's damaging the republic. I mean, it's wounding, killing the republic itself, in my opinion. Sometimes you hear, usually communists or Marxists, talk about that we're in late stage capitalism. I don't think that's true. I see capitalism going from strength to strength, if anything. I think we might be in late stage democracy, though.
Hi folks, sorry to interrupt the video, but I just want to direct your attention to the aesthetics range of merch that we have on the store. These are beautiful images that I think work really well as posters or mugs. So if you want to support us, going over to the merch store at shop.lotus.com is easily the best way, other than signing up on the website.
If things aren't turned around or reformed or things are addressed, this sort of stuff, it's a slippery slope. History shows us time and time again, especially with republics, particularly with republics. And we've talked all about various types of ancient republic, haven't we? Yeah. This is sort of how it starts. Republics only really function well, it seems to me, when there's sort of most of the actors are fairly good faith actors, or you're not actively trying to damage the very fabric, very foundations of what it's built upon. Whereas doing this to Trump, not just this, I'll go on to all the other stuff they're trying to get him on. It's a slippery slope. And again, bruises that won't heal. Once you do that, then your enemies will probably do it against you when it's their turn in power. And there's a one-upmanship problem goes on, and it's the thin end of the wedge. And before long, the very rule of law breaks down. This is the beginning. These are cracks in the very rule of law. It's not that the law has not been used already to sort of damage political opponents or try and get at political opponents, but it just seems with Trump, they're obviously really going for him. So he had to, I won't go into many of the details because I think it was done before, just about how he had to float, was it Truth? What's this company?
Truth Social.
Truth Social, is that what it's called?
I think so.
In order to raise tons of money so he could pay off this $175 million, because he only had a week or two to do it. So anyway, he's done it. So now the authorities can't sort of just requisition his properties. So I think he's worth over $5 billion. It's not just Trump Tower. He's got loads of properties. That Mar-a-Lago golf course, a big thing in Miami. Loads and loads of things he's got. If he wanted to liquidate everything, he would have billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, just going after him. I mean, a quick list of the things that the Stormy Daniels thing is still ongoing. So as I understand it, he claims they never had any sort of relationship, but he did pay her, or one of his lawyers did pay her like $100,000 or $130,000 or something.
I've heard that.
And then Trump gave the lawyer $130,000 back to reimburse him. And I think it's the case that nothing about that is illegal.
Okay.
But it's just slightly dodgy. And anyway, they're still under investigation. I think the prosecutors, the DAs, even though it's not really, certainly not a felony. It's barely a crime, or it might not even be a crime. And if it is, it's some sort of misdemeanor. But they're trying to charge him with felonies. So if and when he is convicted of anything, it's like years and years in prison, years and years. So the Stormy Daniels thing is still ongoing in sort of a roundabout way. There's the 6th of January thing where they want to get him on defrauding the US. Like, that's a crime, to defraud the US, or conspiracy against the rights of citizens. That's all very serious, isn't it? Like, that's
So they just made these up.
I don't think so. They're just like really old, antiquated things, like from the Revolutionary War or from the Civil War times.
They do sound made up, I'll be honest.
Right.
You defrauded the people. It's like,
I think they might be from
you're
the
right.
Civil
I mean,
War times.
this is how people spoke in the 1700s, I suppose. But
yeah. Conspiracy against the rights of the citizens. What, did he attack a fort? Did he try and raise Fort Sumter or something? Or obstructing an official, or the January 6th thing is another thing. And they apparently the prosecutors tried to get him on insurrection or aiding insurrection. Again, that is sort of Civil War era stuff. Like, you've tried to take over the government. We all know that nothing of the sort happened on January 6th, right? But yet still, who knows, if you get a partisan prosecutors with a partisan judge, he could potentially, I don't think it will happen, but it could happen. Get 10 years here, 20 years there.
Yeah.
Could bang him up forever. He's 77. The best will in the world, he's got like 10, 15 years left, right? Another thing he's on is specifically in Georgia at the last election, when it looked like there was some sort of, what word do they use to talk
counting,
about? Where they've...
Fortification.
The fortifications were going on in Georgia. And apparently he had a phone call with somebody saying, let's just try and do the same that they're doing or something. Find me certain votes, I think might have been the quote, something like that. But for that, they're trying to get him on racketeering charges, RICO charges. RICO stands for Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. So again, that's how you get gangsters, organized criminals. You get them on that.
Okay. So it's basically character assassination.
It's as serious as it gets, RICO charges.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
So they're engaging in character assassination. They're trying to spill his reputation.
Yeah. Like, he's a full-blown organized criminal, like on the level of Al Capone or something. Of course, trying to smear his name and his reputation, and therefore his electoral chances, but also just ruin him, put him in prison.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. And the last one is under the Espionage Act for mishandling classified documents and maybe even also obstructing the FBI. That was when they said he took documents home, which I think presidents can, or Biden did even more and stuff, and all presidents do it and all sorts of stuff. But do you remember that? They sent the FBI around to sort of raid one of his properties.
Well, the week after they did it to him, they found it even more from Biden's time as vice president.
Right.
So he's not even president, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
This is clown show then. No one actually really cares what the law is. We're just going to destroy this guy because we don't like him.
And charging him under the Espionage Act. So again, it's like 10 years here, 20 years there for stuff if he's found guilty of it. So this is what I mean when I talk about the very fabric of the Republic starting to fray or crumble. Because it's only a few steps from there where cults are sort of completely openly partisan and not trying in any way to cover up the fact that they're just the puppets for their political overlords.
What is interesting here, speaking of republics that you raise, is that there's a general theme that in the Republic people are supposed to be, as you say, put virtue first and identify with the Republic more than they identify with a particular person. But a lot of the breakdowns come when people start having loyalty over the person as opposed to the Republic in general. And that's how they try to portray Donald Trump, how the US Democrats are trying to portray Donald Trump as a Caesar-like figure whose supporters don't believe in the US, but believe in him That's how they're trying to do. But what is interesting, though, is that it's an absolutely tragic rhetoric, because at the end of the day, you're going to ask them, are you going to criticize yourself? Some criticism. Is any self-criticism due? For instance, they don't understand.
Trump or the Democrat?
Of the US Democrats who employ this rhetoric. Because first of all, how can you talking about someone as being against the Republic when you don't control the Republic's borders? That's question number one. And also question number two, which is a very big one. And they purposefully neglect or don't understand the anti-federalist sentiment that a lot of the people in the US have, especially when there is a sort of economic crisis that is driven by government. And they don't sort of do the math that the more they attack him, the stronger his profile gets. So it's just a double tragedy.
It's really stupid. The first article I ever wrote for Lotus Eaters, like 3 years ago now or more, I can't remember exactly, was an article called Remember the Grackire.
Yeah.
And since then I've written 2 or 3 or 4 even more articles just about the bruises that won't heal, and all sorts of angles talking about how the Republic is being wounded and damaged.
Yes.
And it's very, very difficult to come back from that. History seems to show us that it's very, very difficult to heal it and go back to the way it used to be.
Yeah.
When you're set on a certain trajectory after a certain point, it's very, very difficult to.
Yeah, and that's very horrifying because, for instance, I remember Machiavelli who was saying that after Rome became an empire, there were many hits against tyrants, but none against tyranny. That's a good quote that people should remember now.
Well, we've talked, if anyone wants to look it up on the lotuseaters.com, we talk about Machiavelli's notions about the Republic, we talk about Cicero's notions of the Republic. Yeah. I've got all sorts of content just about the
Seneca,
Roman...
Marcus Aurelius, we've talked about it.
Yeah. And so I just want to say a couple of things, I guess, then about Rome and the Roman Republic. Examples like the Gracchi brothers, Tiberius Gracchus and Gaius Gracchus, where the Republic was functioning fairly well, but they used the law, tried to use the law to, working within the system to subvert certain things, and then their enemies would have them murdered, but then their enemies would use the similar or exactly the same tactics to pervert the Republic their way, and a back and forth until like the nature of justice, the nature of the rule of law, the fabric of society crumbles and falls apart in a nutshell, in a super quick nutshell. And then you're at violence. Quite quickly you come to a point where, okay, the courts and even the police, not that the ancient Romans really had police, but the courts and law aren't functioning. So then people take it into their own hands. You get mobs. I mean, we saw a couple of summers ago now during the BLM stuff that the actual rule of law, fabric of society
was zero rule of law
and to be falling apart.
And it amazed me how people saw what happened and they said, right, the appropriate reaction now is to defund the police. That's going to make the population safer.
Yeah, madness, pure madness. Like that, defund the police whilst society is falling apart.
Yeah.
Or claiming Trump is trying to destroy the Republic whilst they're destroying the Republic. It's the classic gaslighting thing, just accusing your enemy of doing the thing you're doing. Classic 101 sort of commie perversion, right? Well, so the next thing then, after sort of the rule of law is really broke down, people start taking it into their own hands. There's only so far that can go when Capitol buildings start getting genuinely invaded or burnt down, whether it be in Rome or Washington, D.C., all sorts of things getting burnt down, all sorts of crimes and misery and murder and assaults and thefts and da-da-da-da. Eventually have to bring the army in.
Yep.
If the police can't do it and the mobs are entirely out of control, your last resort of the state is military force, well then you're really one step away from not needing a president anymore, not needing a Congress or a Senate anymore. The power, all decision making, the cockpit of power is with the military.
Yeah.
That's what happened in Rome, that's what's happened in lots and lots and lots of republics. The United States, if anything, had quite a good innings to have 200 plus years as a republic. That's not a bad innings. Most republics don't last that long. None of them have lasted endlessly. They're all doomed to fail so far.
I think every system.
Well, okay, yeah, not just republics.
Yeah.
Sure. But some monarchies have lasted
More.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, or 1,000 years or more. But anyway, it is just a worry to me that it seems that the American Republic, not capitalism, because there's still the people want to make money, but the democracy seems to be on a very slippery slope, very worrying slippery slope. And there's people like Letitia James, backed up by the Democrats. Ultimately, Biden, the buck should stop with Biden, who doesn't know where he is or can't really form a sentence properly. It's concerning.
Yeah.
It's concerning. That's all I'd say. So, yeah, the Trump case. Hopefully he'll make it to November without being banged out. Most of those cases, I think 3 out of 4 of those cases will probably be either near November or even after it. But nonetheless, they're trying all they can. Who knows? They'll bring more cases against him, or just find some other thing, some other trumped up charge. Pardon the pun. Or failing all else, just JFK him. I mean, I wouldn't be crazily surprised if something like that happens before November. I always thought that was going way too far when people say that, but you never know. If they think of him as such an existential threat, the intelligence services and things, the establishment, whatever that is, whoever that is, really, find him too much of a threat. I mean, fingers crossed that that doesn't happen to the Donald, but well, we'll see how it goes.
If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as Common Sense Crusade with Calvin Robinson. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.